on the Folsom Lake Honda hotline. Folsom Lake Honda, your one-stop Honda shop, is our friend Brenden Nunes from the Kings Herald, also does the Kings Pulse podcast. Brenden, as always, we appreciate your time, my man. If the Kings clinch tonight, how big of a moment and how much celebration should there be?
Thanks for having me on, as always, guys. It's got to be great in that building, man. I mean, it's been 16 seasons, 17 years, and it's been known for a little while now that this was going to be the year to end it. But I think just the fans deserve to have this moment of celebrating it, of everything sort of being worth it. All the people that stayed loyal and everything, and the players acknowledged the shoot around. Of course, they're going to downplay it's just another game to them, but they would also look forward to just the explosion that could go on in Golden One Center tonight from that fan base. So I think that I hope I get to experience it. I think it would be an amazing moment.
What's the first thing Brenden Nunes does when the Kings win tonight?
I got to keep it professional, man. So I guess take a video and then go down to postgame, man. I got to keep it professional.
You handled that well, because I probably would have said something different.
Yeah, JJ would have been popping bottles. Brenden Nunes with us here on Cattles and Ramie. No Ramie, JJ in for Ramie today. Brenden, we were just talking about Kevin Huerter and his weekend and his overall impact when he's active and he's playmaking. How much of a difference does this guy make if he can give you what he's been giving you in March during this postseason run?
I think it's really important for this team. Obviously, the shooting is there, and I think it's even if the shot's not falling, he still has like a gravity and threat to him as a shooter. But we've seen him have these quarters. It seems like more often than not it's the third quarter, but there's been other times where it's either 1, 2, or 4, but where he'll just put up 15 points like it's nothing, and he catches fire. And post All-Star break, 14 games, he's putting up 17 points on 46% from three, just under 7 attempts there. So that's going to be there, but I think the playmaking that you mentioned is really important, just kind of as a connector, specifically when De'Aaron Fox is either unavailable or on the bench, right? So I think that really stands out, and they've really been asking him to rebound as well. There's a lot of times that Domantas Sabonis is involved in the initial action, and then Huerter or Monk or some other guys, but specifically those two have been called out about kind of helping the helper and making sure to secure boards, and he's done that in these last 2 games, 7 against Utah and 9 against Phoenix. So I think that's pretty big for this team.
Kessler Edwards has seemed to find a spot in the rotation here in the top 9, I would say. Just from 10 to 20 minutes, seems like he's playing every single night. What are you seeing from Kessler, and why do you think he's earned that type of minute during the game?
Yeah, Kessler's played in each of their last 12 games, averaging about 15 minutes a night. I think that this is somewhat of a trial period. I don't know that I'm at the point where I'm like thinking he's 100% part of the playoff rotation. I think if he continues to prove himself as he has, that he could get spot minutes. I think a lot of it admittedly has to do with the wing defense on this team outside of him is pretty underwhelming. I'd imagine that if Anthony Edwards is available, he's listed as questionable right now, that they'll start the game with Keegan Murray guarding him. And that's a tough ask for your rookie. I think that Keegan has his moments, but the next best option is probably Kessler Edwards. I think that was one of the bigger games. That was kind of the breakout game for him last time, was matching up with Ant. So I think that Kessler has done a lot on the defensive end with his length and versatility, and then also not hesitating to let it fly on offense when he's open, I think has been important. But I do also think there's an aspect of there's a very real lack of wing defense on this team. So he's been a breath of fresh air in that aspect.
Brenden Nunes is with us on the Folsom Lake Honda hotline. Brenden, let's talk about Keegan. 4 threes away from breaking the 3-pointers made by a rookie in the NBA. How's he performed compared to your expectations going back to draft night?
I think that it's been better than expected, but in a similar role. I think the team surrounding him is better than I expected, and that maybe messed with my evaluation of what I thought Sacramento should pick at the time. But with the surrounding cast being as good as it's been, and Keegan being such a big part of that, I think that he's been everything you could ever want in this role. He's actually on pace. It sounds insane, but he's having the greatest shooting season any NBA rookie ever has in history. He's going to break that record, and he's so much more efficient than Donovan Mitchell or Damian Lillard was. But I do think it's important to highlight that, so many of his shots are on catch and shoot. And that's what it's supposed to be right now, right? Nobody wants him taking these pull-up threes quite yet. That's not his role in this offense. So I think he's playing his role amazingly, and I think a lot of credit is due to the other guys, specifically Fox and Sabonis, in setting him up. And I think defensively, as I mentioned, he'll be on Anthony Edwards, I'd imagine, tonight. That, if it's the Clippers, it'll be Paul George. If it's the Suns, it'll be Devin Booker. If it's the Warriors, it's probably Klay Thompson. I think offensively, you know what you're getting, and it's been great. But defensively, I think he's kind of an X factor for this team.
Joined by Brenden Nunes of the Kings Herald. Davion has, of course, stepped in for the last couple of games for De'Aaron starting. He had a good game against Utah, I would say, with 11 points and 6 assists, 4 steals. Phoenix, he didn't really stat stuff, though. He did have 6 assists. Do you see Davion turning the corner a little bit here, rounding into shape for what we need to see him for the playoffs? Or do you still think he's up and down and we need to see a little more from Davion?
I hope that it's rounding a corner, but I hesitate to fully commit to saying that yet. I think the biggest thing for me is that the last 6 games, he has not had a single turnover, and he's not asked to go out there and get buckets, be crossing people up. Although we saw a little bit of highlights in that Utah game. I think Chris Dunn might still be thinking about that when Davion had him spinning around. But I think just finding his role on offense, and he's almost always going to be on the floor when Sacramento's healthy. He's almost always going to be playing with Domantas Sabonis because Davion's playing in place of Fox, and the Kings always want one of Fox or Sabonis on the floor, meaning Davion is almost always going to get to play with him and play off of him. So I think just not doing too much, keeping the flow of the game going on offense is something that he's settled into a lot recently. And, of course, you know what you're getting defensively from that guy.
Brenden Nunes with us here. Just a couple more for you, Brenden, before we bid you adieu. Right now, of course, we talk about the Kings clinching tonight, hopefully, as, looks like they are the likely 3 seed when all is said and done. Right now, the Warriors are the 6 seed. How do you feel about that matchup?
Man, it's kind of growing on me from Sacramento's perspective, and that also has to do with I don't know that I love any of the matchups. We'll see about Minnesota tonight, but I think that their length has given Sacramento issues in the past. I don't want anything to do with the Suns from Sacramento's perspective, and the Clippers, if Paul George is there, have some wings that I think could give Sacramento some trouble. So I'm kind of growing on the idea of the Warriors. If there's no Andrew Wiggins, I don't know who's supposed to be guarding De'Aaron Fox. I guess Klay Thompson, but I don't think he moves the same way he used to. I think that Sabonis can try to use some of that size advantage with Draymond Green, who, again, I don't think is quite the same defender it used to be. And Mike Brown's got a little bit of intel on how that team likes to play and what some of their weaknesses are. I know they're built a little bit differently now, but that idea is growing on me. I don't know that I'd necessarily go into it with great confidence from Sacramento's point of view, but more of a coin flip, just obviously thanks to that difference in postseason experience there. But I think it's one that could be pretty interesting for Sacramento.
All right, Brenden, thank you for the time, man. It's much appreciated as always. We'll talk to you soon.
Appreciate you guys.
All right, there goes Brenden Nunes, Folsom Lake Honda Hotline. Folsom Lake Honda